Hey, loves, it's Grace Redmond. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with really incredible people from my circles and communities who have overcome challenges, have created amazing, and now are just giving back in incredible ways. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm always grateful to you. And please share, like, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you our incredible guests. Today, my brave guest is Ghassan Shamieh. Ghassan is an immigration attorney and partner at the law offices of Shamieh and Turndon. His passion for immigration law stems from the fact that he is the son of Palestinian immigrants, which gives him a unique appreciation for the complex world of immigration law. Ghassan understands that navigating the legal web of immigration can be challenging and therefore exhibits an approach that is very client centric. Ghassan began his legal career while in law school, pursuing an internship with the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands. Ghassan was a member of the Northwestern Law Center for Wrongful Convictions, where he advocated for the release of a wrongly incarcerated person from a Chicago prison. Ghassan spent 6 months abroad in Johannesburg, South Africa, working with a legal organization whose sole focus was to provide common legal services to underprivileged communities free of charge. Rather than pursuing a career focused on corporate law, Ghassan wanted to practice in an area where he can combine his passion for aiding the disenfranchised with his appreciation for the opportunities immigration laws offer. Please help me welcome Ghassan to the show today. Hi, Ghassan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, Habibi. How are you doing?
Very good. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I know you are so busy, so I'm grateful for your time today, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
It's my pleasure. You do great work, and this podcast does great things and shares great stories. And so, just honored
Thank
to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, speaking of, great stories, I have so many questions for you, and we're going to get to each one of them. You definitely have just a passion for, serving the, disenfranchised communities and communities who may not have a voice. What inspired you to become an immigration attorney?
So, I think what I realized that I liked immigration law before I ever realized I liked immigration law, and I think that's as you said in the intro, being the son of immigrant parents, specifically Palestinian immigrant parents. Um, their process of coming here was based on immigration, just like all of our parents was, right?
Mhm.
Without these immigration laws and processes, that was never, it wouldn't be possible. And so after graduating law school, of course, I'm a partner with my uncle Elias
Yeah.
at this office, and he invited me to come in and see if I like doing the actual work. And I soon found that I love doing the work, and
Mhm.
it's because every day when I wake up in the morning, my sole goal, quite literally, I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. My sole goal is to help change somebody's life for the better.
Mm.
Now, we may not always win every single case in court, but of course we do our best and we work hard and we enjoy a good success rate. But it's nice to wake up in the morning and know that I'm going to work and my sole goal is to change somebody's life for the better because that's what they came to me for. So once I realized that, it was really nice.
I love that because you said the sole goal, and you can talk about the soul or the soul, the only goal. And so I love that. That's beautiful. And it feels fulfilling.
Absolutely. I mean, when we win a case and a client is crying in your shoulder, it's those moments where you're like, this is why I do what I do.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
So
yes,
it's fulfilling for the soul. It's fulfilling for the mind, um,
yes.
and it's nice to give back in this way.
Absolutely, and it feels good, and I feel with you. I feel you as well. There was a moment in my career where I got to the point where I felt like I was giving too much, to everyone else, and I wanted to focus on myself. Okay, and it was fun for a moment, and then I realized I wanted to go back to service. And now that I've come back to service, like every night I go to bed, I can't wait to wake up to see how I can serve. So I can relate to what you're saying. It is very fulfilling to give back. That's for sure.
Because what we do and is doing both, right? We're serving, but we're also fulfilling and focusing on ourselves and getting that enjoyment and fulfillment in that regard. So we two birds with
Absolutely.
one stone.
Absolutely. And in my because I experiment in life all the time. And in my experiment that year, I felt like it's just going to be about me. I deserve it. And of
Sure.
course I deserve it. And we have to take care of ourselves. But now I realize same, like if I can just serve someone each day, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. So for you, you've really connected your mission and your journey, to the advocacy for those who are less fortunate. Would you be able to share a success story with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of success stories. Happy to say that.
Yeah.
I'll give you one success story that really hits home. It's this Afghan woman who, after the Taliban um, kind of took over Afghanistan recently, a few years back, her husband and her two young children fled on a boat to try to go to another country because they were trying to escape their life.
Mhm.
And on this boat were dozens of families, small boat, but as they tried to make their journey to a European country, the boat essentially capsized, and her
Goodness.
husband got washed away, and she has no idea. I mean, he was gone. He was gone. She managed to hold on to her two children, and they managed to get atop a piece of plank, I guess, part of the boat, and float there for a bit. And she was holding on to her children, and a wave came, crashed over them. She submerged to the surface of the water, and her kids were nowhere to be found. She looks in the distance, and she finds her two kids with another man who cannot swim. So she finds her way to them in these rough seas. The
Mm.
man actually ends up letting go and drowning in front of her, and just going to the bottom of the ocean in front of her.
Oh my
Another
goodness.
wave crashes. She comes to the surface, and her children are gone.
Mm.
She is evacuated using a rescue boat that was a few miles away. And this woman has never touched water before in her life,
My
other than
goodness.
a shower. So
Mm.
they came. She came to us, and we filed an asylum process, and we were able to win that case. And she's now writing a book about her journey
Oh my
um,
God.
out of Afghanistan to the United States, and she's she's
Ah,
brilliant.
I just got emotional.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, I got emotional too, and I told her I'd love to be the first person to buy that book.
I'm
Um,
with you right there.
yeah, but
And
that's what we
so,
do.
like, yeah, and sometimes I always say, okay, Grace, first world problems, keep it moving. Because when I hear stories like that and people who survive that type of tragedy and they thrive and survive, and she's writing a book, that speaks to the resilience and unwavering faith of people, which brings me to what we've been witnessing, in Gaza the last 4 months and their resilience and their unwavering faith. It's unbelievable. And for me, it reminds me to just keep showing up, keep doing whatever you need to do. I might not be the, greatest political person, but I'm going to show up and advocate and educate because they're under rubble and she's in the ocean and they rise above that. And I feel like we're so privileged.
Absolutely, and I think we get caught up in what can I do from here, right? I feel
Yes,
helpless. I feel
yes,
hopeless. But
yes.
people underestimate the value of showing up, of making those phone calls to
True.
representatives, of getting involved, and it's nothing to be underestimated, right? I mean, just the other day, a senator referenced his vote against the aid package due to the volume of calls that his constituents made to his office, right? So there is a tangible impact, and if, like you said, these folks can be resilient given their grave conditions, then the very least we can do is at least show up.
Yes, yes, and in any way that works. I know some people, there's protests and there's education, and also I want to put this out there. It is a fact that if Palestinians speak up or if someone speaks up, it's not a lie that we can get fired or there can be backlash. That is a reality. I feel like I'm blessed because I have my own business and you have your firm, and we can, and it's not, we're not saying anything wrong. This is not them or they. This is about humanity and making an effort to peace and coexisting. So whatever way you can show up, whatever that is, like Hassan said, please don't underestimate it.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to, back in November, you filed a lawsuit against the United States government because to get Palestinian Americans out of Gaza.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask you a question. How did you feel even thinking about filing a suit against the United States government? What were you thinking? Like, what was the thought process?
What I was really focused on was what can I do to help these Palestinian Americans who are from the peninsula, right? One was from Daly City.
Right.
Um, and
Street.
yeah, and so what can I do to bring this old lady back home? Um, and so, yeah, of course, it crossed my mind. Like it says versus, the client's name versus United States of America, Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, and it's quite intimidating to actually submit that, right? Um, but I think knowing that all the other options were exhausted, but nothing was working, right? Nothing was working. Not congressional help, not emails, not phone calls, not reaching out to the embassies over there, to the Israelis, to the Egyptians, to the Americans. Given that nothing was working, it really left us no option, right? And the American judicial system, right? The law is there for a reason, right? And
True.
so it is your right as an American citizen to bring a suit to protect your rights. And so when I frame it in that way, it's reassuring to me. Although, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little bit, I wasn't a little bit concerned about would there be repercussions? Would I face career repercussions
Mhm.
or otherwise? And, I'm happy to say no, I didn't. And, it ended up working out because the client made it out shortly after filing the actual lawsuit.
Amen. And do you think it was due to the lawsuit and the pressure that was coming from the lawsuit?
I think it definitely played a role. I'm not one to take credit for something that's significant, but after filing and before and upon filing the lawsuit, we got a lot of media attention and a lot of social media attention with some major influencers and major media publications posting the stories from NPR to
Mm,
CNN to you know and one can only assume that that media pressure and attention really elevated the call and helped facilitate the evacuation.
yeah. I believe that, to be true. I feel like it's like the tree and we're chopping. Like every action towards advocacy helps. And that was brave, because you're right. I can imagine that you're thinking, what are the repercussions going to be, on my career, and you chose to step into that fear, and so we thank you for that. And
The,
so once the suit was filed, and you were able to bring, I believe it was a like 80-year-old grandmother,
yeah.
right?
So there was two grandmothers. One was one we actually filed the suit for. One we were in preparation. We were
Mhm.
preparing the actual lawsuit. So two grandmothers, Palestinian Americans, both U.S. citizens, right? And that's something that is important to kind of always come back to. That we're talking about U.S. citizens, right?
Yes.
We're talking about people who deserve and are owed the protection of the U.S. government, regardless of where they are.
Yes.
And so that was kind of the basis of the lawsuit, is calling out this unequal treatment between the U.S. citizens that were trapped in Gaza and the
Mhm.
U.S. citizens in Israel.
Mhm.
And after October 7th, merely 10 days after, there was a Royal Caribbean cruise line that the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv actually chartered to say, hey, We want you to port at Haifa, take these Israeli Americans, take them to Cyprus, and then help facilitate their transfer to the U.S. Ted Cruz, right, chartered private flights on his personal plane. The State Department chartered flights through Tel Aviv airport. But Palestinian Americans were left with zero to no options. And
That's
so, yeah, we had to
what,
do it.
what again, all American citizens. What's the discrepancy?
What do you mean?
Like, so we're all American citizens.
Why the unequal treatment? I mean, I think we can all point to the fact that there was U.S. citizens in Gaza and U.S. citizens in Israel. Simply by the fact of they were on this side of the line, they got a chartered Royal Caribbean cruise line,
Mhm.
right? And if for the Palestinians on this side of the line, you were left to essentially fend for yourself with no guidance. So
So is this
without,
being wrong side, wrong side of the line?
but what that is, I mean, being Palestinian, right, and being in the Palestinian territories, and what the government associates that with, and due to that association, wrongfully so, they got very disparate treatment.
Which is unfortunate because the last several years we've talked about equality and humanity and just witnessing, what's unfolded the last 4 months. And again, it's not us or them. Like this is humanity. We've been preaching this, the last 4 years, and so it's been disappointing. And at the same time, I've never seen so, many people come out to support the cause of the Palestinians. I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. So that shows me that there is a shift. Of course, it's not happening fast enough. And I'm grateful that it is out in the mainstream.
I think the shift is happening on the ground, right? It's important to separate those two things, right? On the ground versus with the people in power. If you look at
Oh,
this
yeah. Well,
around the world, right? I mean,
sure.
Indonesia with 3 million people coming out, but the shift is happening on the ground now. Whether that
Yes.
translates into something larger at
Oh,
those at the people in power
yep.
level, that's yet to be seen.
That's what's controlling everything. This piece, it's not the people.
Yeah.
It's like we want peace. People want humanity. It's the powers that be, the greed. How have you been able to manage your, emotions and stay grounded during such a volatile time?
It's a good question because it is exhausting, emotionally exhausting. Right? I do have family in the West Bank who are there now and living through what's going on in the West Bank. But I just keep reminding myself that this is my way of contributing. Right? Prior to these lawsuits being initiated, I really felt down and almost depressed because you're watching this, genocide unfold before your eyes, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. But when you find a way to get involved, protests, letter writing, calling, lawsuits like this, when you find that avenue, you really find an emotional outlet that keeps you focused and allows you to put all those emotions that have been boiled up and building out on whatever it is that you are working on.
Yes, and just transmuting that energy into the advocacy, into the work, into the showing up, into the educating.
Yep, absolutely.
Would you do anything different is there anything you would do different?
I don't think so because there's still efforts going on now with regards to immigration for Palestinians who need to or want to leave. Right when we saw the war in Ukraine break out, there was immigration programs almost immediately launched to bring Ukrainians over from Ukraine and seek safety here. And so I think we're doing as immigration lawyers and community members, we're doing everything we can. So do everything different? No. I just hope that it continues at this level.
And how, like, what can, as immigration, as an immigration firm, seeing that when the war in Ukraine broke out and there was all these programs, and now there probably aren't any programs for Palestinians to immigrate. what are the steps that a firm like yours would take to advocate for new policies?
So, I mean, there's meetings with government officials, with immigration officials that we've been actively part of. There's been community groups that have formed, groups of lawyers to help assist filing of applications, free of charge, of course,
Mhm.
uh, for Palestinians who are Americans who are filing for their family members abroad. And so we're it's amazing to see the unification of immigration attorneys nationwide,
Right.
not just Arab, right? We're talking about all kinds of immigration attorneys coming together because of this lack of programs that there was for other countries and other conflicts. So the groups that have been working on it have been tremendous.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
And it has to start somewhere. And like we were saying earlier, yes, the shift is happening on the ground. Who knows what's going to happen here? It has to start somewhere. We might not see it in our lifetime, but it has to start somewhere. So thank you for all of the work that you do.
of course.
So you've mentioned the term restorative justice. What does that mean?
Restorative justice is a concept I learned about back in college. Even from college, I was really interested in conflicts and what happens after a conflict subsides, right? And specifically
Mm,
South Africa. That was largely, it was a racial conflict, right? It was apartheid based on race. And because I studied over there, because I went there, I saw the community, the country united, right? Of course, there's racial tensions here and there, and
oh,
there's
always.
underlying stuff, but by and large, it's a pretty unified country, and it's remarkable to me because just you know within memory, right? It was a country that was torn by apartheid.
Yep.
So restorative justice is a term and a concept that South Africa used to move past apartheid in a unified manner. It's basically having a listening session with the person who's harmed you,
Mm,
giving them and moving forward together despite the level of harm that this person did to you, your loved ones.
that's
Very
tough.
powerful. Very powerful. Very powerful.
It's would you say it's similar to, maybe forgiveness?
Sure. I think that's what it is, and through forgiveness you can get justice, right? Through the
Oh,
admissions of the harms that this person is telling you to your face, and through this process of forgiveness, that is a form of justice in and of itself. At least that's what the principle calls for.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's not easy, and it's very powerful. And so, going back, like you said, you not only studied in Johannesburg, but you also stayed there because you loved it so much.
Mhm.
Um, how were like you said, there, of course, there's going to be racial tension, but how were the communities coexisting after so many decades of apartheid?
Well, I mean, they're existing peacefully and unified, right? I mean, in a way that the ANC, who's a governing political party in South Africa, is a largely black party. But there is no repression of the white minority, right? There is no repression of the Indian minority. It's by and large an equal society. And so I was really interested in that because is that possible for Palestine?
That was
Is,
my next question. So
yeah,
take it from here.
yeah. Is it right? I mean, because people equate what happened in South Africa to what's going on now in Palestine. So people, when you were going through protests, you say no justice, no peace. But what does justice look like? Right? There's so many different forms and ways to go about it. And is South Africa's model the right way? I mean, it's working, but is it doable? I don't know. I don't know. Is it a one-off? I don't know.
Gosh, can't we all just get along?
Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
I know. I wish it was that easy because
But it's controversial, Grace. Right? I
I
mean, like
know, I know,
you're telling people you want me to forgive somebody who's
I
murdered
know.
my family and did X, Y, and Z to my loved ones, but South Africans did it.
Well, that's the powerful piece. And not only do I teach the principles of success, however, the principles of spirituality, and ultimately, y- you know, that's ultimately, forgiveness is for you, not the other person. However, when you're witnessing such grave situations, I'd feel foolish to say, well, let's talk about forgiveness and restorative justice. However, I've watched several, I don't, maybe you can call them influencers, who are for peace, and they're, let's not polarize. Let's come together. And you're right, it's not a popular stand, because this person, this side's angry and this side's angry and clash. However, how can we advocate without polarizing? Like, how can we advocate and bring piece together? It feels, I know I've had a challenge with it. When I feel like I'm advocating, it doesn't mean I don't care about, this. We want peace. It's just, you're right, it's controversial.
But I think the most important part was the willingness of white South Africans to admit their wrongdoings, right?
Oh,
And so, because that's what it was based on, is as a white South African, you would sit there and you would tell the community you harmed everything you did. And as long as you were honest about everything you did, the black South Africans, not 100%, but by and large, were ready to forgive you for admitting all of these wrongs. So if that exists, within this conflict, then okay,
sorry,
maybe.
sorry. I'm gonna get punished and cancel culture. No, but there are so many, have a lot of Jewish friends. The Voice of Jewish, for Peace have been amazing.
Of
It's
course.
not. I don't think it's, Palestinians don't like Jews and Jews don't like Palestinians. I think it comes here from the establishment,
Sure.
because I think that we want peace, and we want to see peace, and we want to see humanity. And I know it's a controversial topic, and but it's okay. We have to have this conversation, and it's necessary.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
necessary. So, I hold that utopian vision that, in my lifetime, that there could be some type of peace and coexistence and restorative justice. That would be amazing.
I hope
I will
so.
hold that vision. I will hold that vision.
And I think most, I would think that Palestinians would get behind it, right? My dad, who's, and mom, who were expelled from their homes, and had to flee. My dad always says, just give me the right to be equal and go back, right?
That's
And
it.
I will. And if everybody's equal, then we have no problems, right? But that's kind of the starting point.
Right. And you're right. I mean, I haven't, connected with anyone who's had a different, perspective than that. It's like, let's just humanity, peace. I mean, everybody wants to just live in peace with their families and have basic human rights, be respected, have food, have water. It doesn't seem that, um, difficult. And, that's why it's necessary for us to continue to advocate. And hopefully in our lifetime, we will see that, coexistence and that restorative justice. And so, with that being said, what do you think has been one of the greatest challenges for you navigating the last several months?
Hmm. I think it's not getting burnt out.
Okay, fair.
uh, because there's so much I want to do. There's so much I
Mhm.
need to do. There's so much I feel like I can do, I can't do. And it's being honest with myself and saying what you are doing is enough, for what you can do, right? It's because you always want to be doing more. You always want to be doing more because you feel like you need to. It's your obligation. And so I think making sure that I'm balancing all of those things along with my firm and my family and everything. I think that's been the most challenging part of it all. But luckily, I got an amazing support system at home, an amazing office staff here, and everybody's been, jumping in to help, and great colleagues. And when things seem like it's overwhelming, it's those people you go to, and they kind of bring you back down and ground you and get you refocused.
That's beautiful. So, and I hear you. Just wanting to do so much, and we're just not having the bandwidth. And how beautiful that you have that support system and community to lean on, because we need each other, and we also need to, take care of ourselves, because if bless you, because if
Excuse
we're
me.
not taking care of ourselves, like we're not able to serve.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think has been the lesson for you in everything that's happened? In filing the lawsuit, in being an advocate. What's the lesson that's come out of it for you?
That's a good question. I think the lesson is that there are tools to get you what you need and what you deserve and what you're owed. And I think people are oftentimes hesitant to utilize those tools, right? To get what is owed to them. Um, and I know that sounds vague, but I'm thinking about the lawsuit specifically, and going back to that conversation we had earlier, that yeah, even the clients themselves were scared, right? What is my grandmother going to face as a result, right? Are they going to take away her citizenship? Are they going to? But it's really the advocacy and protecting the rights of people that make sure that none of that happens. So I don't know. It's a long way of saying that. I think the lesson is you need to find an avenue that works, because there is an avenue that
Mm,
works, right?
I like that. So don't take no for an answer. If you get a no, you're knocking on the wrong door.
There's plenty of doors to knock on, right?
Yes.
And
Mm.
you may just have to nudge one in with your shoulder, or knock a little harder. But eventually, through consistency and determination, like, that door will be open, whether by force or otherwise.
I like that. Which brings me to, how does faith play into all of everything that you do?
I mean, I have faith in humanity, Grace. Right? I have faith that people are born good. Um,
I believe that too.
yeah, and I believe that we can tap into that goodness of people using pulling the right levers, right? Um, and people may lose sight of their goodness, as we're seeing around the world. And but there are people out there that they need to be reminded of what it means to be good, right? And so I have faith in humanity, that there are plenty of people out there standing with the Palestinians, that there are plenty of people advocating for immigration reform, because they know that that is the right thing to do. So I have faith that these people, and humanity will come and save save us, for lack of a better word, and make sure that we're covered.
I believe that to be true as well. I believe that we are innately good, and then life happens, and we, you know, hurt people. And I too believe it's been so challenging, but in my belief and perspective, if I could, use these words, I believe that God is in control. And maybe this is helping to teach us, like, to go back to humanity, like you said, like bring it back to be respectful and kind. And it doesn't matter where a person comes from, or what color they are, or what religion, or what race. That just we all are, we are part of one race, the human race. And then I don't know if I'm going to open this can of worm. I also believe, the media plays on, you know um divide and conquer, right?
Sure.
So, but ultimately, I agree with you. I believe that, people are good, and I believe in humanity. I believe in humanity as well. I see people doing great things every day, which brings me to, what makes the team at your firm, Shamieh and Turned In, one of the top firms? I mean, you stand out. The firm stands out. What makes you the top immigration firm in the nation?
I appreciate that. and we just work really hard. I mean, we have a crew of 12 folks who are really committed to their clients. There's legal assistants here who, cry when the client wins, all right, and they're crying together, and when you have folks that are truly invested in the clients and their stories and the outcome that we're fighting for, you a great team will naturally come about, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do to avoid that. And so I think we've been very fortunate to have such an amazing squad that is truly invested in the clients that they're helping. And I think because of that, we're able to work hard and get the best results we can.
And that's when we're talking about humanity right there,
Yeah.
helping others. And that's what you've been all about since you've gone to law school, and you've always been about service and helping others. So we really appreciate that about you. I know it's been a lot of work and it hasn't been easy, and we just want you to know that we appreciate everything that you've been doing for the community near and far. And
Thank you.
this is a start of, you know, God willing, the bigger shift. So, what's one thing that what piece of wisdom that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Grace, you didn't tell me you're going to ask me that question. Uh,
But I've been from all different angles. You've been doing great.
um, Sometimes I'm asked to go back to my high school and speak to high school students, for career day or whatever it may be. And one thing I tell them, and it may sound cliche, but failure is inevitable, right?
Mm,
But it's failing forward. What does that mean to me? That means you fail and you continue to push forward and grow from it. Um, you don't fail and then fall back and stay there. You
mm,
fail forward. And
yes.
if 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 people can truly accept that failure is going to happen, no matter what, whether you like it or not, whether you think you can control every outcome or not, failure will happen. But if you fail forward, then only great things can happen after that. And as long as you continue to remember that, no matter how many failures may come your way, as long as you continue to fail forward, I think that eventually those will turn into inevitable success.
Yes, I love that. And thank you for that incredible piece of wisdom. I'm with you on that 100%. I appreciate you. I know you're super busy, so I won't keep you any longer. So please, for those that are watching and listening and they need, support, or they need have a loved one that may need support, where's the best way that we can reach you, Hassan?
Yeah, so Instagram is, believe it or not, the best way. G Shamieh ESQ, or our website shamiahlawsf.com.
Perfect. And we'll also have that contact information, in the banner of this podcast. So if anyone needs it, it'll be there for you. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much for joining us, San, for everything that you're doing. And for those of you watching and listening, I really appreciate you and am really grateful because I know there's so many other places you can be. And please, if you are listening and watching, share, subscribe, and maybe write a review so we can continue to come back with incredible guests like Hassan. All right, I'll have a wonderful rest of the day, Hassan. Hang in with me. Take it easy,
Thank you.
everyone. God